Hey everyone, I am using an app my friend told me about to record a video, and well, I'm recording a Roblox video where I am an egg with legs, and right now I have an arrow going through my head. Okay, there's one portal. Okay, I'm watching something about Rick and Morty.
It's me, that Timmy girl. I'm more alive than I've ever been. Save the day with puppeting. Only one with a decent arm.
Most importantly of all, though, Jerry is coming to realize that he doesn't need to be the hero to be useful. He might not have had any soulmates on the Love Finders app, but Beth chooses him anyway. He might be a dork who glorifies camping, but his s'more stick ends up saving Beth. Jerry is aware that he's a loser. What? But he's made peace with the idea that Beth and his family
if you hear anything,
really needs to be happy. And when you look at that self-realization compared to the endless misery and cynicism,
that's not my voice or
truly be happy,
packet
Jerry
of
is the one who really comes out on top.
Well, I was impressed, Dad.
and
He
someone
saved my
eating
life,
crisps.
no thanks to you.
Which brings us
That's
to
my
Beth,
sister,
who's faced in season
Jessica.
4 with the most literal identity
well,
crisis, as she continues to grapple with the idea that she might be
Come-
alone. And though we don't see much of her
Why
in the season,
does my
Beth
face-
has an
why
identity
does
arc,
the face-
clone or otherwise. She transforms from the insecure, dissatisfied woman trying to numb her pain in earlier seasons to a confident mother.
I'm gonna mother you until your 18th birthday, even if I get thrown in prison for non-consensual mothering.
And skeptical, but ultimately loving wife.
Look, on the off chance that you use the app.
I didn't use it. Did you?
Me? No.
Well, then we're all good, Doug.
But it's building a civilization with her father that really sets the turning point in her character's search for identity. Early in episode 9, we see the old Beth peek through. She delights over the praise that Rick gives her.
These kids may not be mine, but you definitely are, my little steampunk overlord.
And yet, midway through the episode, Rick abandons her, just like he did to her when she was a child, to prove himself as a god against another god, which ultimately backfires. And in turn, it almost gets Beth killed, leaving Jerry as the only one to save her. By the end of this episode, Beth's season arc is pretty much complete.
Well, I was impressed, Dad. He saved my life, no thanks to you.
And this all culminates with the season 4 finale where we come face to face with Beth's clone, or the original Beth. Honestly, the episode doesn't give us a whole lot of clarity, but the promotion for their video game Pocket Mortys after the episode may have by calling Space Beth Clone Beth in the game. Regardless, the Beths conclude that it doesn't matter.
I'd love for us to need that from you, but I don't care what's in that vial.
They've both found their identity, one defined by not needing Rick's approval. They're strong in their own ways. Those ways don't include him. Leaving us with Rick himself, who's in pretty bad shape at the end of the season. I'll pat myself on the back a little bit here because I totally called the ending of the season, but not too much because I also made a video about how Rick didn't actually clone Beth at all, so whoopsie there. Anyway, Rick is left broken and alone at the end of the season for exactly the same theme that we've been talking about with every other character. Because instead of finding a new identity like everyone else, Rick refuses to change. He recognizes that he's a jerk to everyone and everything around him, but he just doesn't do anything about it. He thinks that lampshading it by directly calling it out is enough, but it's not. At least not anymore. This is him in season 3.
Bad father all the way to the max over here.
Now compare that with his realization at the end of season 4.
I'm a terrible father.
Rick historically was comfortable with the fact that he wasn't a good dad because he convinced himself that nothing matters. He's not entirely wrong about that. When humans are just a small speck of dust in an infinite universe, yeah, our actions are pretty meaningless on the scientific level. But when you're not looking at the objective reality of the universe and instead zoom all the way down to the family level, into the subjective reality in which we all live, well then, we're all the center of our own little universe. And it's there that you're able to find true meaning, true purpose, and true happiness. And that is when your actions literally make a world of difference. So will Rick ever be able to grow up and see that? That is the fundamental question hanging over the rest of this show. Okay, so our characters are having a bunch of identity crises throughout season 4, but does that really tell us anything about where the show show's headed? Yeah, a lot. Because the crisis of identity that the characters are having is clearly mirroring the discussion that the makers of the show are having about its identity throughout this season 2. This was the first season produced after the series was picked up for 70 more episodes, and the pressure of
watching the
how to
video,
handle that
Rick and
many
Morty
more installments
video,
of the series while still
and
maintaining what made this show
its
great in the first place is the
identity.
core arc throughout this
We're
entire season
setting it.
4. Don't get me wrong,
There's
Rick
a
and Morty
thing.
being meta and breaking the fourth wall is
It's
nothing new. It all
identity.
goes back to the pilot episode, but it's never been as specific as it's
If
been in season 4, where almost
just-
every episode
if they
that aired is some
communicate,
deconstruction of what it means to make the show of Rick and Morty. It's most obvious in the Story Lord episode that we covered in great detail already, but there's so much more to it, and it all has one common theme: the debate over making the show serialized or episodic. Serialized television tells a single story from beginning to end, usually in chronological order, like Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad. Pick up in the middle of those series and you don't have a clear idea of exactly what's going on. Episodic television is often seen as more formulaic, and events from one episode don't really affect all the other episodes around it. Think The Simpsons, or Seinfeld, or most seasons of South Park. Things happen, but there's always a reset button at the end of the episode. It's a debate that's set up from the very first episode of the season. We end it on this rant.
Sometimes we'll do classic stuff, other times we'll do whatever.
Sometimes we won't even do anything.
A direct callback to a very similar speech that happens at the end of the pilot episode of the show when nothing mattered and everything was just meant for fun. And that's not all. In this very episode, kicking off season 4, we have Fascist Morty outright declare that he wants to have fun, classic adventures like in the good old days.
I want to have fun, classic Rick and Morty adventures like in the old days.
You know what? It would really help if you could just say anything other than what you don't want.
I like Mr. Meeseeks.
Okay, now we're talking.
Here, Fascist Morty is serving as the voice of the fans who didn't like the more serialized route that the show was taking throughout season 3, where the season told an arc about Beth and Jerry's separation and the fallout with the rest of the family. And Rick basically responding with, "Tell me something that you do like," is clearly a stand-in for the feelings of the show's creators. It's them begging fans to stop complaining about everything and instead offer them something productive, something they like, some constructive criticism about the creative decisions that are happening on the show. So the first episode of season 4 sets up this arc about the identity of what the show is, and we see this debate play out throughout most of the other episodes. In the Vat of Acid episode, we get this exchange.
What about my video game style place-saving device?
Yes, Morty, I saw it on Futurama.
Oh, so you don't do anything unless it's original.
In the first few seasons, Rick and Morty didn't have to worry about being unoriginal because it was presenting us with new characters, establishing its own style. But now the makers of the show have to continue to make decisions about whether characters and stories should reoccur, how original their concepts need to be, and on and on and on. And we're seeing those debates literally taking place on the screen through the voices of these characters.
Wait.
In that very same
There's
episode,
an
we
arrow
also
going
get
through
this
my
moment.
head. Does that
Such
mean
thing as
I'm a
bad idea, Morty.
crackhead?
It's about execution.
This discussion of there being no bad ideas is a frequent topic in groups of creative individuals. They even poke fun of what many consider to be the weakest episode of the series.
Morty, wanting a dragon isn't an idea.
I'm not talking about that. I'm constantly pitching you ideas, Rick, and you act like they're not even worth thinking about.
This whole sequence isn't just two characters arguing. It's a writer's room debating what can and can't be an episode of this show. It's a debate that we see embodied in other episodes too, by Jerry's mysterious cat in the middle of the season. A cat that literally stands for
Mysterious
everything not needing an answer and just having fun. When Jerry asks why the cat can talk, we get yet another writer's room-esque quip.
Why aren't you talking? Why should that matter? Why should it not matter?
Of course, there's the Story Lord episode, which literalizes the fear that the writers team has of draining Rick and Morty of all their story potential. Even the final episode of the season has a reference to this ongoing tension.
She died the way she lived, over-serialized.
Tammy, like evil Morty and Bird Person, are too important to the quote-unquote plot of this show, and are thus, in Rick's terms, over-serialized. They can't be episodic characters, they have to only take part in episodes. Heck, every character in that last episode talks at some point about their arc, and how important their arc for the season was. So how does it all shake out? What conclusion does the show reach? What is the show's meta arc for season 4? Well, again, we turn to that Vat of Acid episode. In it, Morty embodies both halves of the serialized versus episodic debate. His reset button gives him the literal ability to be episodic, where consequences don't matter. He is literally hitting a reset button, but he himself is a continuous, serialized entity, continuing across all those different timelines. And having lived both sides, he comes to this conclusion.
We are who we are because of consequences.
Any show can be random, smart, funny, but it's the running thread of these characters, their relationships, the dramatic stakes that run through their lives, those are the things that make Rick and Morty such an exciting show to watch. It's the consequences of these characters' actions that matter. Will every episode from here be forwarding the plot in some way? No, certainly not. Rick and Morty can have their cake and eat it too. You can intersperse episodes about fascist shrimpers, Nick Terminators, while occasionally bringing back Bird Person, or Evil Morty, or Mr. Meeseeks. So the identity that the makers of Rick and Morty have settled on is what Rick preached in the very first episode of the season. Moderation on both sides.
I think you have to think ahead and live in the moment.
So what does any of this mean for the eventual season 5 that'll come like 3 years from now? Well, we'll probably still be seeing continuations of our story developments. Morty and Summer will be teaming up for more adventures. Heck, it might feel more like Summer and Morty than Rick and Morty. And Rick will be on the outskirts, all alone. He'll be doing more solo adventures, maybe revisiting
I'm going to play a different game.
from his past as he tries to prove himself to be a friend and a good person somewhere in his past. And you know what? I don't think he's gonna find it. He'll find that almost everyone has a bad taste in their mouths from their interactions with it. He's been knocked down a few pegs throughout this season, but he still needs to be knocked down a few more in order to finally force that big change. The season's arc will probably have to result in Rick coming back to the family as a changed man, or the family being forced to forgive him in some way. And in order to do that, you really need Rick's egotism to be shattered, and then the family can finally reunite and be stronger together as a unit. Or, you know what? Who knows? Maybe Rick will never redeem himself. Maybe he'll just be a tragic figure doomed to his own misery. Or they'll spend the next 10 episodes doing nothing. After all, they have 60 more episodes left that they're on the hook for. Might as well burn through some time with more stupid Morty Dragon adventures before getting into that serialized heavy stuff. They gotta stretch this storyline out a long time. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut.
Welcome to BritBox, the biggest box of British box sets for the BBC and ITV. Now, Channel 4, all in one place and ad-free. So, start your free trial today. With no contract, no ads, no bother. Search for BritBox free trial.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Glorzo, the Glorzo that overthinks the Glorzo on all your favorite Glorzos, Glorzo. We're back on the Rick and Morty Quick Theory bandwagon this week to talk about an episode that I initially dismissed as just a wacky space adventure during my first watch. Season 4, Episode 7, Primordius. I mean, can you really blame me? It ends with Rick and Morty pooping their pants in the living room. For a show that requires a very high IQ to understand, this one seemed like a pretty straightforward sci-fi riff on Alien with a little bit of Star Wars thrown in for good measure. The truth, though, is that this is an episode all about philosophy. Now, keep your Glorzo on. I promise this episode will be better than your college philosophy class, and won't have a guy who sits in the corner with dreadlocks and brings his acoustic guitar to class. He'll just be, down in the comments with his acoustic guitar. To quickly recap, the episode opens on Rick and Morty controlled by parasites. They escape the facehuggers and kill them.
Next thing I remember, I was in a cave looking at some wet egg, and that probably did it. I told you not to look at that egg!
As they explore this alien parasite society on their way to escape, they discover that it seems to be worshipful of something called Glorzo.
How's it going? Some glory to Glorzo. Totally love Glorzo.
Glorzo is peace. Peace. Glorzo.
These aliens plan to Glorzo Earth, meaning take over all its inhabitants. Rick and Morty make a daring escape and decimate the alien society on their way out of town.
Feels kind of good when there's no guilt, huh?
Yeah, it's like in Star Wars.
Yeah, just like in Star Wars.
Later, they realize they left Summer behind.
And how's Summer? Did she have fun too?
After returning to the planet and finding Summer, Rick, Morty, and us as the viewer learn that the facehuggers have a 30-minute life cycle of attaching themselves to the faces of host bodies, pooping out an egg, and then promptly dying.
Wait, so all you do is live half an hour, eat eggs, and die?
Yes, we love it. I'll do it right now.
Summer introduces the revolutionary idea of, not doing that.
Okay, you guys don't have to listen to me, but I vote you don't do that.
And thus, a